Everyone ready? I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for a short prayer and salute to the flag? Almighty God, grant us the wisdom to make those decisions that are in the best interest of all our residents. May the Heavenly Father of us all bless those who have given the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation, and may He watch over and protect our servicemen and women now guarding the gates of freedom. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Terry, statement of publication.
Yes, take notice that this regular meeting of the Mayor and Borough Council being held on this 18th day of December, 2017, has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Buchanan.
Here.
Grillo.
Here.
Kilpatrick.
Here.
Lembo.
Here.
Melendez.
Here.
Novak.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to move that the minutes be approved subject to correction if necessary. The October 10th, 2017 council agenda session and executive session. October 11th, 2017 receipt of bids. November 13th, 2017 special meeting, rent leveling board appeal and executive session. November 13th, 2017 council agenda session and executive session. November 27th, 2017 council agenda session and executive session, as well as December 5th, 2017 receipt of bids. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need to abstain from October 10th and November 13th. I wasn't in attendance.
Okay.
Yes to everything else.
Opposed? Terry, old business?
Under old business, we have the public hearing on the following ordinances. Ordinance number 384-17, an ordinance amending Chapter 3, Fire Department of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Saraville.
Pat? Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, sorry.
Let's see. I move that the following ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and a public hearing to be held on December 18th, 2017, which is today.
No, this is the public hearing. We need to open
Oh,
this
I'm
up to the
sorry.
public first, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
It's okay.
Open up the public hearing for ordinance 384-17. Is there anyone that wishes to speak regarding this ordinance? If not, entertain a motion to close the public portion.
There you go. Now.
I'll make that motion, and I will say I would move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilpersons Grillo.
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Kilpatrick.
Yes.
Lembo.
Yes.
Melendez.
Yes.
Public hearing on ordinance number 385-17, and ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 19 of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Saraville to amend Chapter 19 swimming pools.
Mayor, I make a motion to table this. We had a revision of the language at the last meeting. The clerk has informed me that we can't introduce it tonight. We'll have to introduce it on January 8th.
Okay, so it'll be in for first reading in January 8th and then,
We're going to reintroduce on January the 8th.
okay.
Mhm.
So there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilpersons Grillo.
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Kilpatrick.
Yes.
Lembo.
Yes.
Melendez.
Yes.
Now I'm going to open the public portion for ordinance 386-17. If anyone wishes to speak on ordinance 386-17, yes, sir? Please come up and state your name.
Steve Malinowski, 28 Scarlet Drive in Parlin. On this ordinance, in the last few meetings, we've been asking for what the loss of revenue would be for the developer fees for both the first not passing it, and I think Councilman Melendez asked for a 10-year, and I thought we heard that that would be presented at this meeting today. But further than that, we also stated that the current version of the ordinance had number 7 on page 6 was too ambiguous and too open-ended to allow a lot of wiggle room for the fees. There's also a article in the Suburban about just that on the developer fees on page 10 of the current Suburban. So I thought this portion of 7 was going to be either rewritten or narrowed down so it's not so ambiguous and open-ended, so that we wouldn't have things being exempted that maybe we could have collected fees on.
Please ask him which version he has
Steve, what version do you have? Because there was an incorrect version put out earlier today.
This was the one I pulled off the back of the,
Okay, because we have the one that's been crossed out on it.
oh. Okay. Okay, I just took it off the table. Okay, thank you. So then the only question I have on the developer fees was, what was the potential loss of revenue from not doing this currently and going back the 10 years that Councilman Melendez asked for?
Yeah, I thought he was supposed to present that tonight.
Yeah. He charges for bills sometimes and then doesn't show up for other meetings.
There was a
There's a report, but he should be
There was a
presenting
report that was put together, and it was given to Mr. Malineski, but I'm not sure exactly if it contains the answer to his question.
I have a physical copy with the answer.
Okay.
Would you like,
Please do.
would you like it, or?
Yeah, you want to read it? It's in your hand.
A lot of numbers. I shouldn't have volunteered myself.
Yeah, that happens.
Let me just go through this for a second. There's a lot to it. Mr. Leon Cavello isn't here to explain it. The estimated cost for not performing this, I'm sorry, there's two items he actually looked at. He looked at what the cost of because you had asked sort of what is the cost of affordable housing mandate to the borough and what the deficit would be, and then the cost of having not charged the fee developer.
Yeah.
So there's two answers.
Yeah, and the young lady here handed me Mr. Leon Cavello's pro forma on what the cost of complying with COA was.
So you have that already?
I have that, I've not read it,
Okay.
but just to make it clear what I was looking for on that, I was looking for more of a capacity planning, unit cost type of analysis. I'm sure the planning board would have done it with Mr. Leon Cavello to say because I know the number of houses that we have to build is not fixed yet, at least as far as I know. 2960 was the figure I heard, I think, at the last meeting or the meeting before. But I was looking for something, and it may be in there, that would look at it and say, well, for every 500 homes, we need X, police,
Yeah.
support, et cetera. And if that's in there, we're good to go.
That's in there,
It
but
was in there.
also your specific question about the fee ordinance.
Yes.
There's a lot here, but what he did was he went back and he analyzed Town Lake West, Camelot at Town Lake, Gillette on Main Street, and Lemire, Section 5. He's looking at a total cost, I'm just trying to count up the number of units, he didn't total them, but 100, 284, 300, about 575 units or so that he estimates were built, which did not receive the fee ordinance, and it's calculated at $1,052,201, uncollected.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? If not, I'll entertain a motion, and just to note that on page 6 of the ordinance, number 7 has been removed. So is there a motion?
Well, before we do that, I'm just looking at these emails that we received. I'm trying to, no, never mind. This is 38617. No, this is it. Did anybody read the email that was sent out to us by the planner, Leon Cavello? At the very, very bottom of the second email he sent out, there's actually a recommendation. It's listed as number 4 under his document. It's the second email. It says, in discussion with the tax assessor and other borough officials, but it doesn't outline what other borough officials they were. It makes sense that if ordinance 38617, which is the developer's fee ordinance we're looking at, is approved, a trial period of 6 months to a year may be needed to tweak the ordinance for revisions that will not become apparent immediately regarding unique properties and circumstances. Monitoring of the fee ordinance may be appropriate as anticipation of all conditions regarding generations of fees may create many questions for residents as well as commercial builders. Does everybody else see that?
Yes.
Okay, so if we turn around, this is, I don't know what page on the hard copy, I'm just working on. Third page, last page. Is this something that is common to turn around and say, if approved, we need 6 weeks to tweak it?
ordinances have been amended throughout the course of time.
Yeah,
It's
you-
Had other
necessary.
we can
ordinances.
tweak it as we go along.
I mean, they're all living
We see-
documents. I
We see the
mean,
need.
we've had it where we had ordinances, specifically one with the police department, where we reevaluated it after a few months, so.
Is that something that we just need to, I know that it's in here, but on the record now to state that, it makes me this whole entire situation just makes me really uncomfortable when it comes to all of these changes and stuff, and I'm concerned with the course that we've been on with COA. It seems like every time we get told certain things and we find out later on that we weren't told the whole truth. I really hope that moving forward with this developer's fee is really going to be in our best interest. So, I mean, I'm supportive of it. I was the one that turned around and said it was something we should have done years and years ago. But when I see a disclaimer like that put on the bottom, it just makes me nervous. And, we're in litigation. So I just wanted to read that. And yes, we do tweak ordinances all the time. I just would like to know what some of the issues were that the tax assessor already saw and these other borough officials. But I'm happy that we did remove the language that was concerning for the redevelopment agency.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, I agree with Councilwoman Kilpatrick. I think the recommendations section is just it's a recommendation, it's not binding. The ordinance, if you go to page 7, because this struck me as well as something that's worth discussing, it's the appeal of development fees. It allows a developer to challenge residential and non-residential development fees with the Middlesex County Board of Taxation.
Yes.
I would imagine that is where any tweaking would have to be done. So it would have to have to go through an entire review process by the county. And then if something was truly wrong, we'd be notified of it. So I think this ordinance gives us the ability to change if needed, but it'll be a mandate from another body anyway. So
Right.
And if I
I'm
remember
comfortable with it, I
correctly-
suppose.
If I remember correctly, when John was speaking up here, he kept on talking about how he didn't write this himself. He was taking bits and pieces from other ordinances, so.
Speak closer to the microphone.
Sorry. How's that? Okay. No, when John was talking to us earlier about the ordinance, he said he didn't write it himself. He was taking bits and pieces from other ordinances. So I'm sure they've tweaked it as well, but it's something that we can keep an eye on and put on a calendar for ourselves.
I suppose we have the ability to learn, should it be appealed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We've seen that before. Anyone else have any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Council President, I move the public hearing be closed and the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilpersons Lembo,
Yes.
Buchanan,
Yes.
Grillo,
Yes.
Kilpatrick,
Yes.
Melendez.
Yes.
Okay, I'm now going to open up the public portion for consent agenda resolutions. This is anything on the consent agenda only. Does anyone have any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Yes, sir. Please state your name again, please.
Steve Melanowski, 28 Scarlet Drive in Portland. It may not be so much on the consent agenda, but I know at the last meeting we talked about a court date of 12/15 and the proposal to hire Susan and the attorneys that we said, and I see that in the consent agreement. What I'm looking for on that end is what was the outcome of that 12/15 meeting?
You have to wait for the public portion for that.
Oh,
Yeah, we
okay.
have to, I'm sorry, we have to discuss that in the public portion when we open up to all items. Right now, we're just talking about the consent agenda only.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Janice Benedetto, 1 Thomas Avenue in the Melrose section of a resolution 2017-353, transferring current funds from one designation to another. Cost of appraisals, $30,000 from to legal services. What type of appraisal, what's involved there? Because I saw on a previous resolution also a cost of appraisals, money being reallocated from one budget area to another.
If I may. This
Yes.
is one of the topics I've been waiting for. Wayne, if you can explain what a transfer resolution is?
No, the transfer, first of all, the governing body can make transfers anytime during the last 2 months of the year for the current year budget and within the first 3 months of the succeeding year for that same budget. This transfer comes from, we have an appropriation entitled Cost of Appraisals, where funds are are budgeted each year or appropriated each year for appraisals, either for tax appeals, which is generally the use of those funds, or sales of property, or acquisitions of easements, where an appraisal is required. There was funds available in that particular line item, so it was moved over to legal services to pay for the attorney and to help pay for the attorney and the planner that you see the resolutions on for tonight regarding the appeal of the COA decision.
Okay, and then when the Cross Avenue National Lead site had $6,000 allocated for it, and the Kaplan site.
That was charged to the appropriate accounts for that, yes.
All right, and would that be the same area, cost of appeals?
Yes.
Appraisal, sorry, I used the wrong.
Cost of appraisals, yes.
Okay. All right, so when you have a budget situation where you didn't use the funds, you reallocate the funds.
Another account,
To
correct.
another account as necessary. And you're saying you allow it the last 2 months of the year and the first 3 months?
The succeeding year, yes.
Okay, and does the borough work on a calendar year?
Calendar year, yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. At this point, we have to, do the consent agenda first, right? We have to finish that. We have to do the motion to, we just closed the public portion.
Oh,
We
I'm
didn't
so
vote on
sorry.
it.
It's usually done in a joint
I
motion.
know.
I'm so sorry.
Throwing a little curveball out there for you.
You certainly did.
At this point, I'm going to move that the public portion be, the consent agenda resolutions be approved on roll call vote. See, I threw it to myself as well.
Second.
Before we go on to the vote, I just wanted to discuss the bills. I had asked Terry for a copy of the payment vouchers for Mr. Leon Cavello coming to our council meetings, because I didn't know, nobody from the council authorized him to come to the meetings, and now we're getting bills. In the last meeting, we had questions for him, and he didn't have the answers for them. So whose account does this come out of? Is this our account, the planning board's account?
Planning board.
So they're paying out of their fees? It's not coming out of our pockets? It's not coming out of the borough's?
Oh, it's coming out of the borough budget, but the planning board budget.
So they authorized him to come to our meeting?
They signed for it. The chairman signed, went before the planning board, and they signed off on the voucher to be charged to the account, their
So they
account.
authorized him to come to the meeting, and we have to pay for it? Is that correct?
Well, yes, out of the planning board account, yes.
Okay. So he came to a meeting authorized by the planning board, didn't have answers for us, for the public as well, but again, we're paying for that. Okay.
What if we don't authorize the payment, if it's on here?
Excuse me?
What happens
What if we don't
the payment?
authorize the payment?
Then it doesn't get paid.
Oh. Oh. There you go. So we can authorize that not come out of taxpayer funds, whether it be from, the planning board's, funds or our funds.
They have no other funds other than.
This is our fund.
Escrows for a specific project, specific reviews.
So the $1,139 that we were charged for Mr. Leon Cavello to attend our meeting with no answers, we can turn around and say we're not authorizing that payment, if we
But
so
you could
choose?
withhold it, yes, you can have it withheld from this bill list
Oh.
before you do the final approval, yes, and it'll be pulled off, and
Oh,
won't be paid.
Council President, is this something?
This is something I definitely want to
do
entertain, because
we-
it's something that.
Do we
again,
make
I
a
s-
motion for this?
Might I
Or
just
do
ask
we
what
ju-
his recourse is if we don't do it? Does he come and appeal to the council? How does it work? We've never done this before, at least in my tenure.
Recourse.
Someone makes a motion, we get a second, and move
That'd
on.
be
And
removed
if we
from
do
the,
not, if we do
the
not
list
pay
of
it, what
bills,
is the
yeah.
recourse for the individual's bill?
I mean, I don't know the circumstances under which there was an agreement to pay that. It's a bill, presumably just submitted in the normal course of.
that's right, but I think our code provides for the fact that they, you know, the bill list can be amended and bills removed, or so noted if a council person or a council person does not wish to vote yes on that particular bill.
I mean, I don't think it's any different than any other service you might be less than satisfied with. Those are my words, not yours.
Yeah, my concern, Mike, is that, you know, the planning board authorized him to come, and when we had questions for him, he just sat there without the answers. So I don't know, we were gonna pay him just to come here and watch us? And that's where I wanna draw the line. I don't want to pay someone who's just gonna come here and watch us. I mean, people do it for free on Channel 15 all the time,
And YouTube, too.
and YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sort of taking a position one way or the other.
No, I understand, I just
whether
wanted to give you the background. I wanted to give you the background of the last council meeting.
And Vicki, this is in reference to 17 PB041?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
So
So-
I'm going to make that motion again, to pass the consent agenda items with the exclusion of invoice 17 PB041, with everything else yes on the rest of the agenda.
I'll second that.
Councilpersons Buchanan,
Yes.
Grillo,
Yes.
Kilpatrick,
Yes.
Lembo,
Yes.
Melendez,
Yes.
Now I'm going to make a motion that bill invoice number 17 PB041 be denied.
I'll second that.
Councilpersons Buchanan,
Yes.
Grillo,
Yes.
Kilpatrick,
Yes.
Lembo,
Yes.
Melendez.
Yes.
Thank you, Terry. I now your resolution to be read in full.
Be it resolved that the following person is hereby appointed to the following position. Excuse me, name of appointee, Beth Magnani, position Secretary, Boards and Commissions, Department, Planning Board, effective January 2nd, 2018. Be it further resolved that compensation be paid such employees shall be fixed and determined by salary or ordinance or appropriate resolution adopted thereunder fixing the compensation to be paid municipal employees, and that this appointment be made subject to all rules and regulations of the New Jersey Department of Personnel.
I'm going to open the public portion for Resolution 2017-360. Any comments or questions regarding 2017-360? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, we have somebody in the back? Yes, ma'am. This is regarding this one resolution. Nope, 2017-360. You don't have to, you can come up and join us and talk, but no, this is only about this one resolution. Anyone else? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilpersons Kilpatrick,
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yes.
Grillo.
Yes.
Lembo.
Yes.
Melendez.
Yes.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to open the public portion for any and all comments now. Yes, Steve?
Can we get an update, Steve Malineski, 28 Scarlet Parlin. Can we get an update on the 12/15? I think there was a court date that was supposed to happen.
Yes, obviously Mike Dupont's not here tonight, but Mike Washburn is going to give an update. Ed, I'm sorry, Ed.
That's all
I
right.
apologize.
No problem. Got my last name.
Finally got it right.
My information is that there was a hearing in court, I think it was last Tuesday, and that as a result of that hearing, the court has not yet generated an order which normally flows from any court appearance. And Mr. Dupont is awaiting receipt of that order from the court.
And that order would be for?
Well, I wasn't in court that day, but whatever relief was either asked for or objected to, the order would address that.
Okay, because
I don't know the specifics of the order.
I thought we were also needing to get Susan Gruhl involved to see if there was any more exemptions that we could get from that.
The only thing I can tell you is that we're awaiting an order from the court. Whether that addresses the specific sort of subject that you're bringing up, I don't know at this point in time.
All right, thank you. Maybe we can get it next meeting.
I do know that there's a motion for counsel fees related to that on for January 5th, attorney's fees.
So Steve, just before you go sit down, we, as the council, can't really discuss it because obviously it's in litigation. We've discussed that we were going to an appeal. This is the answer that we can give you right now because nothing has been formalized through the court.
Do we know yet what our grounds for our appeal will be?
That's all part of the, we have to wait for the order.
We have to wait for the court's order to come in.
Okay, thank you.
And we don't control that, sort of. Sometimes they come in a little quicker, and sometimes they come in not as quick as you might otherwise expect. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Ruth Ann Mahoney, 2 Gerard Place, Portland. This just came to mind as I'm sitting back there listening. Mr. Leon Cavello can be told or brought to our meeting, the council meetings, without the council's approval. The planning board can tell him to be here.
Mr.
And
Leon
then-
Cavello is appointed by the planning board, not by the council.
Right.
So they told him to come to the meeting. Now it's up to the council if we pay his bills because what is the borough gaining by him coming?
Well, sitting in many meetings here, as you all know, I've been here. I don't know what we've gained from him from when I started coming. He seems not to be able to answer our questions regularly. That's my opinion, my piece. I don't know what's going to happen. Is there a way to get a new planner?
The planning board appoints the planner. Or
Well,
the
then
planning
it's-
board.
So it's
There's a
useless.
possibility of having a planner for the borough, which I don't think we've ever appointed a planning board planner. We did? Okay, I didn't know if we did or not. And then they would represent the borough. So
So
something
that
else
is,
to look
that
at for
could be
January.
an option to be looked into.
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Which, yes, ma'am.
Janice Benedetto, 1 Thomas Avenue, Melrose section. I'll go on with planner topics first, since we're in that mode. I attended the last planning board meeting where they had proposals from Leon Cavello and Susan Gruhl for the 2018 planner position, and I learned, which I didn't realize, that the planning board appoints the planner. So then the mayor appoints the planning board, and the planning board appoints the planner. And we're apparently having problems with the planner. So I really think that the concept of the council having their own planner, especially depending upon who the planning board selects for the 2018 planner, is something that should be maybe a resolution made for. Also for checks and balances and for more or less comparisons, because we're having to spend money on consultants and things like that, and we're having legal fees being built up for appeals because of poor planning. I think there should be a council planner and a planning board planner, because the planning board planner is out of the council's hands. And I think there's need for oversight. And I don't know how you go about it with budget considerations and things of that sort, but as you're putting the 2018 budget together, I think that this should be done now before we incur more legal fees and court cases and things like that. Because there's a good chance that, in my opinion, just as a public observer, that a planner is going to be reappointed that we're probably dissatisfied with the work of. As far as the public speaking, council and mayor and other officials have their own opinion, but from the residents' point of view, I don't think we're satisfied with how all of this has gone on in the past, and I could list a whole list of reasons, which I'm not going to right now, but I really think that this is the time to act and put a resolution forth that the council should appoint and have their own planner. I think it's always good to have a different set of eyes looking at things for varied opinions, different perspectives, checks and balances, and independence. You know, so everybody's best interests are considered.
Thank you for your comments. I really do appreciate them. So what would happen is on January 1, any appointments that are made are for one-year terms. So at that point, on January 1, the mayor will put forward names for several different positions. One may be for the municipal planner for the borough council, and the council could either agree or disagree with who his choice is. If we agree, that person gets appointed. If we disagree, the mayor could put up another person's name or not. And then after 30 days, then the council would appoint somebody as the planner for the borough. So it's something that has to be discussed between the mayor and the council, but it wouldn't take place until January 1 anyway for the one-year term. So if we did it now, it would just expire December 31st. So we'd have to do it for January 1 anyhow.
And is this still the planning board's planner as opposed to the
It all
council's
depends on who the mayor
planner?
who the mayor wishes to try to appoint. If it's somebody from the planning board, then the council would have to discuss it. If it's somebody outside, again, we'd have to discuss that as well.
But, excuse me, though, Council President, in the past, haven't the council appoints a planner and the planning board appoints their planner?
And there's only been,
That's correct.
now we have 2 RFPs.
It's been the same person, but both do appoint a planner. That's what I thought.
Last year, the council did appoint municipal planner John Leoncavallo, and the planning board also appointed their planner being John Leoncavallo.
So, I know in the past we hadn't. I don't know if this was the first year or not. I know there's been several years.
Past 2 years, we did have a planner appointed, but previous to that, you're absolutely right, Council President, that was a vacancy.
So yeah, it's something that would be appointed on January 1.
So it's two separate and distinct appointments. I think that's the
That's
question,
correct.
right?
Two
Planning board will
separate
have
and
their-
distinct
The planning board
appointments.
will have their reorganization meeting themselves and appoint a planner. On January 1, we have our reorganization where we appoint
A
our.
municipal planner.
So right now, am I understanding that for 2017 and 2016, we have not had a municipal planner?
No, that's not accurate. That's not accurate. Before 2016, we did not have one. 2016 and 2017,
We have had one,
the one
and it's
planner we
been
did.
Mr. Leon Cavello.
I was just corrected by Terry.
Okay, then let me ask this. You know, you put out every meeting the items selected for payment by vendor, and I haven't been attending meetings since the beginning of your calendar financial year. How much have we been billed by Mr. Leon Cavello, and how much have we paid him?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Can you have that information for the next meeting?
I should be able to. Yeah.
Well, it should be easy, otherwise, if I had all the reports, I'd add them up myself, but I'm sure your computer puts that out, that you can just hit and request an inquiry for the amount paid by vendor.
And,
Billed,
do
it
you-
could,
Do you want it for a specific, you want it for COA, or do you want it for all items, or?
I would say all items for.
I would
2000
say all,
Also, you know, he gets payments for reviewing planning board and zoning board applications as well.
Can you categorize them? Can you categorize them?
They could be categorized.
they probably get charged to different accounts.
Yes.
Yes, so you could do an inquiry
numerous
by
accounts.
account, yes.
Okay.
Well, you can do vendor, and then you can do a listing of all the various accounts. Well, it's a computer thing. I'm sure your computer program's capable of
I
it.
just asked you whether or not you wanted
Yeah, well,
everything or just
And this is for the
specific items.
January 8th meeting, not January 1st.
January's meeting,
January
which
8th
would be
meeting.
January 8th.
Not our reorganization. Give you a little extra time.
You won't have
that
it
way.
till January 8th.
January
I
8th,
just
that's
said
what
wait.
I'm requesting.
We don't want to put you that big of a crunch.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that it's a matter of just putting an inquiry in for the vendor and then asking for it to be sort by account. And then we'll have the account descriptions. The other thing I'd be interested in, if you could do also, since we're looking into different lawyers and things like that, if you could do the same thing for Mr. Sachs.
Okay. If the council wants me to. I mean,
What's the council's pleasure?
You know, I agree with our residents, and I think that it would be in everybody's best interest to find out what exactly we've been putting out from a fiscal perspective. I think also it would be a category breakdown, because I know that Mr. Larry Sachs, I'm certain, has other descriptors in some of the things that he bills for. But, you know, in light of the litigation, and I think that considering that all options are before us as a council moving forward about what we will be able to do, what our possible recourse will be depending on the judge's orders, I'd like to have those dollar figures in the event that one avenue has to be entertained versus another. I'd rather have that information sooner rather than later.
I think if you're entertaining a possible consulting with another attorney on the COA issues, it pays to know what you've been billed and whether you're satisfied with the services and what the new attorney would be proposing and charging, you know, to go forward. And I don't, I think probably for 2017, I don't know if the council feels you have to go back to 16 or not.
I think you read my mind. I was just going to turn around and ask for a time frame from the council as far as how far we want to go back with that. Just this year?
Yeah, just 17.
Just this year. 17 for now?
Just
Just
17.
Yeah.
All right, and then if it seems like 16 is necessary, I'm sure it's just a matter of putting a request in on a computer program. An inquiry should not take that much effort. On the Mr. Leon Cavello's report, to answer, I believe it's Steve's questions, how do we obtain a copy of that? You're reading it, it seems complicated, the public would like to see it and read it.
The clerk Mr. Leon Cavello emailed it to me. I imagine that he emailed it to the clerk as well. So, you don't have it? Okay.
And, to do a public records request, what would we call this? Because sometimes we don't know what to refer to things to get a public records request put in.
It is called,
Go ahead. You have it in your hand.
write this one down. It
Okay.
is the initial pro forma study of COA obligation and fiscal impacts for COA period 2015 to 2025.
All right,
Would
to
you
make
like a
it
hard copy?
easier on Terry, what's the date on that also? And if I can refer.
Today, December the
Today.
18th, 2017.
Okay, Terry, how do you want us to refer to that? To make it so you know what we're asking for.
I'll just call it the COA pro forma study from December 18th.
Okay. Because we would definitely like to see that. Thank you.
And I suppose just to keep cooks out of the kitchen, the clerk should directly ask Mr. Leon Cavello to send it to her as well tomorrow, so she has an electronic copy.
Okay, and then we'll be making the request. Oh, and you,
But it doesn't seem like you have both copies. It seems like you have the pro forma, but you don't have the other one you were talking about, which is the fee developer ordinance calculation that I read to you. Okay, so you have one of the two. So you should ask the clerk for it.
so there's two separate reports. All right,
They
so we're
came,
looking
they came
for two-
across as one file.
I have it.
I'm sorry, they came
File,
across
but
as two
two
files in
reports.
one email. But
I'll forward them to you.
today.
All right, two files in one email, is that what you said? All right,
Yes.
Terry, so then you know what maybe Beverly will request tomorrow. All right, two files in one email from Mr. Leon Convello.
Correct,
dated
and
today.
one is the fiscal impact of COA going forward through 2025. And then the other one is the fee developer calculation going backwards. The exact year, let me look, goes back to 2010, depending on which property is in question. And that was the $1,052,000 number I read earlier. Give it to the clerk.
Beverly, maybe you want to just give Terry yours also.
Does that clarify?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that. Another question, since we were talking about the new lawyer that is looking into the appeals and the COA situation, Jeffrey Surinan, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Has any work been done? Are there any reports or communications so far?
I have not received a report. Anyone receive a report from the new attorney?
And we just authorized him tonight
Yes.
in the consent agenda.
So, I know he was looking at it. He's been working on it because yeah, right. So we have not received anything yet.
All right, so we don't know anything about anything yet.
Not yet.
And the same thing with Susan Gruhl working in conjunction with him. Okay, then regarding the Cross Avenue National Lead property, the request for the appraisal was made to the appraisal two companies as of November 15th. I didn't know if you had gotten anything in from the appraisal companies yet.
Not yet? No, not yet.
Not yet, okay.
I do know that the Open Space Committee meets on Thursday, so you might want to attend and ask that question as well. They may have more information than we do in their packets.
Okay, they may have appraisal information and things.
Yes,
of
I
that sort.
don't think any of my colleagues nor myself have received anything. So
No, it would be the,
Come to us
it would be
first.
the mayor and council getting the appraisal reports, because that's where the request came from.
All right, so open space won't get it then, Terry.
I think you've attended their meetings before to ask these questions.
Certain questions,
Just so you know, they only meet
Exactly.
quarterly, so don't miss it if you don't
Yeah.
want. But they're Thursday.
it's Thursday at 6:30. Okay.
Anything else, ma'am?
I think I have covered all of the questions. I thank
Thank
you
you.
for your time and for keeping the public updated on everything.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your assistance. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn the general meeting.
I will make that motion as well.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, for Janice.
So,
Are we going into?
I'm sorry. People sit down and leave me alone. Gotcha. To adjourn? Second? All ayes? That's tough. Moving on? Just gotta put the stuff for the public. There's no changes on the agenda, so you could use what's in your packet.
So are we going into exec now?
we're not yet.
Not yet.
We're gonna start a new meeting, and then, it's the Wayne's report.
Okay.
You can ask for that. I'll go after public. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for a salute to the flag?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Terry, statement of publication.
Yes, take notice that this agenda session of the Mayor and Borough Council being held on the 18th day of December 2017 has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Buchanan,
Here.
Grillo,
Here.
Kilpatrick. Here. Lambo.
Here.
Melendez.
Here.
Novak.
Okay, start off with Administration and Finance, and you can also do Public Works while you're at it, Vicki.
Oh, thank you very much, Councilman Buchanan, Council President Buchanan. We'll start by moving the following minutes and reports be received and filed. The Board of Education minutes of October 17, 2017, the Municipal Clerk's report for the month of November 2017, the CFO's investment activity report for the month of November 2017, the Office on Aging Supervisor's report for the month of November 2017, and the CFO's report as the award of notes.
Second.
Need a second on that? And let's move on to the applications received for bingo raffle licenses for the following organizations. As listed, we have the Animal Rescue Force to conduct their off-premises 50/50 on May 26, 2018. Can I just say as listed for this, 1 through 5? Thank you. And next, we have the report from the Open Space Committee recommending the borough take the necessary steps in order to acquire a 1.6 acre lot from Martha Hartle near the Cheesequake Creek, known as Block 450, Lot 9.
Anything else?
I'm sorry.
Do you want to proceed with the acquisition of that property via donation? And if so, the borough attorney would handle it? Or we'll forward that to the borough attorney?
Yes, please.
Yes. And other than that, progress under admin and finance. I will move to the Public Works report now. Once again, I'm asking to move the following minutes and reports be received and filed. The Public Works Supervisor's reports for buildings and grounds, parks, recycling, roads and sanitation, and garage services, all for the month of November 2017. And
Second.
Second. And last but not least, the Rent Leveling Board minutes of November 14th, 2017 as well.
Second.
And under committee reports, I would just like to add that there are no committee reports there, but I'd just like to add, I wanted to say thank you to our Public Works Department for all of the hard work and diligence that they did once again with our 2 snow events, which ended up being more like really an inconvenience is what we had from commuters' perspectives when it comes to the roads. Because this was not a heavy snow, it did take up a lot of resources, and that included a lot of our salt. They were on top of that from day one. And from the moment that the snow started to fall, I know that sometimes people don't realize that even those small amounts end up costing a lot in time and a lot of our resources. So they did do a great job in making sure that we had safe roads. And anybody that traveled outside of Sayreville knows that our Public Works does a very, very good job in comparison to some of the other towns around. So I thank them for their efforts. And other than that, progress.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Planning and Zoning, Councilman Lembo.
Thank you, Council President. Move the following minutes and reports be received and filed. Middlesex County Planning Board minutes of November 14th, Planning Board minutes of October 18th, Construction Officials Report, Zoning and Code Enforcement Reports, all for the month of November, and the Fire Prevention Report, also for the month of November.
Second.
Received following notice, notice on semi-annual groundwater monitoring and sampling in accordance with NJDEP of the property on Speedway gas station on Route 9. Also, receive and file from the Borough of South River, notice of hearing on an ordinance amending their zoning laws. And also receive and file from the Township of Edison, notice of public hearing scheduled for December 20th, amending general business districts.
Anything else, Councilman?
Other than that, progress, Council President.
Thank you. Next, Public Safety, Councilman Grillo.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. I move the following minutes and departmental reports be received and filed. Board of Health minutes of October 5th, 2017, Board of Health Registrar and County Inspectors Report for the month of November 2017, and the Court Administrators Report for the month of October and November 2017.
Second?
The other thing in committee reports, everyone should have in their packets from the discussion we had at our last meeting, which was the potential creation of a COA oversight committee. Myself, I guess the council authorized me to proceed with the discussion with the borough attorney. In your packets is a draft of that ordinance. Essentially, this would create an autonomous body removed from the mayor and the council, which would allow each committee, agency, body, you name it. The lawyer and I tried to figure out what everything is called in this town. There's about 20 different agencies. But they would have their own ability to appoint one member who would then be sent up to this COA Oversight Committee. That committee would then have the opportunity to participate in any discussions and questions of the council, questions of the borough planner, the planning board, et cetera. And so we think this is a really good opportunity to create a more inclusive aspect for the community, because remember, the COA issue does not resolve with whatever court decision may be made in the next couple months. It legally will go through 2025, and so we need to make sure that we have as much transparency and planning as possible. So I'm just going to read the purpose, which is to provide oversight, guidance, and participation for residents and organizations regarding all affordable housing requirements for the borough of Sayreville. So unless anyone has any questions at this point on the language, I'd like to have it for introduction at the January 8th meeting. Any clarifications?
Comments, concerns?
Any objections to having that introduced?
Any objections?
To having it introduced, I
I-
don't think there's issues having it introduced.
I just would like to have a question with Mike, Mike regarding if there's any kind of conflicts regarding what we're doing right now and that board. So that's something I would like to talk to Mike about.
I do have one more question too, to piggyback off that. I think that it is a good idea to turn around and actually have more involvement here. I mean, transparency is key. I think that had we had something like this, probably when you were on planning and zoning prior to the COA plan being put together, maybe we could have avoided a little bit some of the
We should have had
issues.
it 30 years ago,
Yes, I mean,
when the problem started.
Exactly. There is one more component to this, though, that maybe we also need to have Mike look into. If you remember, under the law, under the statute, under COA, one of the things we have to do is we actually have to employ somebody within the borough in order to kind of do some of this, to do the oversight of COA.
Correct.
So I'd like to turn around and at least look at how that person would fit into this particular ordinance before we turn around and move too forward with it, because I
Yeah,
think that
in
they're
s-
going to be a big component, right, Steve? I mean,
Sure, and in
That's-
Section D, it says the borough planner shall maintain a non-voting seat.
yeah, but I think we're going to have,
Perhaps that should be expanded to whoever is this COA administrator.
yeah, exactly, that co-administrator, I think, would have to be added. But I do think that, yeah, this is something that, from a
And if there's
resident's
a different
perspective.
municipal planner, wouldn't we want them as well?
Can we have Mike look at this, just so that we can
He wrote
talk
it.
about adding those things? Yeah, no, but he might not have thought of those two things.
No, I agree, and I think you're right, Ricky. If there's a different municipal planner than
Yeah.
the planning board planner, then we would,
Who's that
I
person?
don't know how we figure that out.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think this might be even better brought up a little bit later, considering January 1, we would be determining whether we do municipal planner. But I think also we'll have a little bit more of a defined idea of what we have to do with the COA employee that oversees it, and it might be something we have to add to this as well.
Understood.
So we're going to kick it back to him again and tell him to look at it, right? Kick it back to Mike and have him entertain looking at those things.
do we have to do that before introduction?
We Probably do.
I mean, can we make that alteration and have that conversation over the next 3 weeks?
Well, I'm shaking my head. I don't mean to shake my head, but it would be best that we have it all worked out before we introduce. Instead of introducing it and having words changed, it might be very, a substantive of nature that we.
Okay, so then, the only comments I have at this point are, how do we include the co-administrator and the municipal planner versus the planning board planner, which would go somewhere in Section D, we think. Do we want to, you want to all send me comments and the clerk comments that we can then give to Mike? How do we want to handle?
No, I think that if we
Are
have
those
concerns,
the
read
two
it
main
over
issues?
and look it over, and we'll send questions and comments to Mike.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Anything else, Councilman?
Yes, the other item is, I just wanted to thank my colleagues who came out to the Morgan Comprehensive Planning meeting at Rutgers University, and some of the residents that are here tonight were there as well. I thought it was a productive meeting. The students did a terrific job. Two of the big recommendations that came out of it were the potential rezoning of Route 35 in Morgan to encourage mixed-use commercial and residential development, as well as the creation of an area in need of redevelopment. Both of those things require a series of steps, but I do implore my colleagues that serve on the planning board and Sarah to please encourage those discussions in your respective bodies. Hopefully everybody got an electronic copy. I sent it via email last week. It's a big file, so it might have bounced back. But I also have an electronic copy for the clerk, so should anybody ask for it, it is here. And with that, that's progress.
Steve, can I add that when we did have our Sarah meeting, actually a couple, not this past one, although it was revisited again, but the one prior to, we did have discussions. I made that motion in order to take a look at that same area and determine whether or not it does fit the criteria for an area in need of redevelopment. However, we at Sarah also learned a couple of different things in reference to the presentation that was given by the Rutgers students. They did do a wonderful job, but we also now heard of another new type of zoning, which was an area in need of rehabilitation, which was
That was
something.
new to me.
Yes, which was something also interesting that I did not know about and have since started to research. So that was, you know, gives a little bit more control also over, from my understanding, to the council when it comes to putting areas in need of a area of rehabilitation versus redevelopment. But I wanted you to know that we had actually followed up on that a couple meetings before. So hopefully we'll have our findings. I know that at one time, the Route 35 corridor was already looked at as far as an area in need of redevelopment. Jay, or Mr. Diadio, that was probably over about 10 years ago. Is that correct, Jay? And at that time, it wasn't something that was received favorably by all areas. So there was actually one particular business that was put in the redevelopment zone and then actually had asked to be removed from that redevelopment zone. And that was some of the things I found out when I was doing my research on the Gondak Drive property. I think that was part of the Morgan Marina. So, but it is something that we'll be looking at again, because as we know, 10 years ago was 10 years ago, and today the face of Saraville is changing every single minute. So, thank you.
Thank you for your support. I appreciate that, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Melendez, Recreation?
Thank you. Item 1, the Recreation Director's Report for the month of 2017, report and file.
Second.
And just really quick, I just wanted to thank the Recreation Department and the Rec Advisory Board for the Christmas parade this year. They do a lot. I want to thank them for all their work this past year. I mean, just many people have been on that board for many years, and a lot of these events that happen, I think people take it for granted because they always do. So I want to thank them. And then also I want to thank Saraville AA. Athletic Association had their toy drive on last Sunday. I believe it was over $10,000 in money they raised that they were able to give back to I think they had over 500 kids, I believe the number was. So something to be proud of, and I want to thank them for that. And just wish everybody a happy, healthy New Year holiday, and see you all January 1st. Thank you.
Thank you. Under my report, I move that the Water and Sewer Director's report for the month of October 2017 be received and filed. Okay. Received a letter from Chief Zabrowski for the retirement of Pete Skarzinski. It was surprising. I was actually surprised that he was old enough to retire, but he was an asset to the police department for many years. And he will be sorely missed, so I wish him well in his retirement. He's retiring as of December 31st. Next, Terry, I'm not sure if you could just explain the process now. Resolution number 2017-347 was regarding the agreement between the Borough of Saraville and the PBA, and it came back unsigned by the mayor. What would be the next step for that? Is there any action needed to take by the council?
There is no action needed by the council.
So
Council
what
President.
happens?
It's passed.
It's passed based on,
Majority of vote of the governing body.
so whether he signs it or not, it still got
There's
passed?
no bearing on it. no.
Okay. All
Only
right,
if he
thank you.
vetoes an ordinance.
All right, thank you. Lastly, I just want to thank my colleagues for giving me the opportunity to be council president again for 2017. I really do appreciate it. I think we did move several forward. We went through some weeds and found some problems, and we're working together to try to get those issues resolved. 2018 is, going to be a difficult year because we're going to really see the appeal go through with COA, and we're going to have to fight for what's right for the residents of Saraville. But I want to thank all of you for your help and cooperation this year, and I look forward to 2018. No one's leaving this year. Everyone's staying the same, so we can work together and be successful as a borough. I want to thank all the borough employees for all their hard work every year that they do throughout the year. And we've already had 3 snowstorms, so I want to thank Public Works and all those, water and sewer, all those who came out and helped with those storms as well. They haven't been great storms. They've been non-plowable storms, nuisance storms, just enough to annoy you when you're pushing the snow off to the side. But they come out, they leave their families, and then they have to go back home and shovel themselves out. So I want to thank them for all their help, and all of you up here. Thank you for coming each and every meeting and being prepared and giving us the answers that we need. When we ask you for answers, it's very much appreciated when you have the answers. And you could look to Jay, and he has his binder over there, or Wayne and Terry. They give us the guidance. So thank you for all that you guys do each and every year. And to the residents coming out here, it's a little sparse. We've seen packed rooms throughout this year. We've seen empty rooms. Obviously, we like to see packed rooms. This way, everyone has their voice heard. So thank you for coming out each and every night and taking times away from your family and your home. So with that, I want to thank you and hope you all have a happy holiday, whatever you celebrate. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Joyous Kwanzaa, and have a Happy New Year. With that, we'll move on to the Business Administrator's Report, which Dan is recuperating from surgery. He's on the mend. I spoke to him today, and he will be back shortly. I'm going to ask Wayne to give Dan's report as well as his own report.
Okay, the first item, under Administration and Finance, authorization to extend contract 2015-9 uniform rental and cleaning for one final 2-year term with no increase in contract price. That'll be a resolution will be required. Under Public Safety, authorization to promote Dana Scheider to Record Support Technician 3, effective January 1st, 2018. That'd be a resolution also. And a request for authorization to send out conditional letter of employment to 6 police officer candidates from the police certified list. 1 is currently PTC qualified and 5 to attend Cape May Academy on January 22nd, 2018, and scheduling interviews with the mayor and council for January 8th at 6 p.m.
Any objections? Any objections?
Public Works, discussion of an ordinance regulating sports equipment and apparatus in public roadways and rights-of-ways in a borough from December 1st through March 31st of each year. I think it was brought up at last meeting about the basketball.
If I may, Chief, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but can you just come up here? My only question is, how enforceable is this going to be?
Well, I haven't had a chance to really review it, so I'd like that opportunity. But it is an issue. I know that I've spoken to Bergen on several occasions, and not only interferes with their plowing, but it also creates issues of liability and damage as well. So if I get a chance to take a look at it, I'd like to.
Okay.
It's certainly something that would be.
Okay, and then if you can just shoot us a report if it's, how enforceable it's going to be, because I don't know how many homes are affected by it, but I want to make sure that, okay.
Yeah,
Just make sure it's enforceable.
Number 130, I think, homes that Bernie already did through sanitation. He did, so I know he can send you that, Chief.
Okay, we'll get that information over to you, Chief. Next item, Wayne?
Okay, under my agenda, I need a resolution authorizing the 10-year extension of the Red Oak pilot agreement. We just got finished extending for the last time, the Nextera agreement. The Red Oak agreement will be for a 10-year extension, which will basically bring it to its conclusion as far as the amount of time that you can have a pilot agreement for the initial authorization. This agreement, though, will increase the amount of annual payment from $800,000 a year to $900,000 a year for the 10-year remainder of the agreement. So, the resolution at the next meeting in January, and then the agreement can be signed. Okay. All other items dealing with the agreement stay the same. It's just the term and the dollar amount.
Next item?
Okay. And then, of course, the transfer resolution. I have it on the agenda just in case. And in closed session, temporary tax collector.
Wayne's laughing because when I first got elected in 2004, the mayor, pretty much almost every meeting up until the time I got sworn in, had Wayne explain what a transfer resolution was. So that's the running joke that we've had since then. I don't know if the mayor's done it to anyone else since then, but it was like every meeting I'd come up here and Wayne have to explain what a transfer resolution was, like I wasn't understanding what it was or something. But that's why I said I was waiting for that waiting for that for a long time to be able to have somebody else explain it. So that's what we were laughing at before. So thank you. Jay?
Thank you, Mayor. First item, you've already taken action on. The second item, the Public Safety Complex parking lot improvements. We've received bids for that project. The second bidder has filed a protest. He feels he should be qualified as the low bidder. Those documents were sent to the borough attorney for review, so after he decides, we'll have a resolution, hopefully for your January 8th meeting.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any attorney report?
No, other than just to restate that we're waiting for an order from the court as a result of the hearing that occurred last Tuesday. Without that order, nothing can happen and no decisions can be made.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to open up the public portion for questions and comments on all items. Yes, Ruth Ann.
Ruth Ann Mahoney, 2 Gerard Place, Parlin. Stephen, or Mr. Grill, I'm sorry. You were explaining about the new committee for COA. Is that, to make it clear to me, is that similar to what was discussed several weeks ago with getting the planning board together, and is that similar to what this is?
Yes, for the most part. I mean, right now, so the issue with the planning board and the zoning board was that they had felt that they could not participate because their attorneys told them that it would be a conflict for whatever reason. I'm still not quite sure what that reason was. But the way this ordinance is written, it would give every single agency, authority, whatever you want to call it, in the borough, the opportunity to appoint someone. So the planning and zoning boards, they could participate, they might not. But this would give everyone from open space to the cultural affairs, to you name it. Every group would have the ability to sit on these meetings. It would be something in perpetuity, and there'd be structure to it, right? Because, we had asked for this group to sit together, and we were going to have this big meeting at the high school, and could the dates work, blah, blah, blah. Why not just formalize it? Because we know this is going to go for at least another 7 years. And so that was the intent of it. And Councilwoman Kilpatrick introduced something similar for the Board of Ed specifically. So this is an expansion on that. I think having the Board of Ed have their own thing is great, but why not do it for everybody? And the Board of Ed would be included in this ordinance as well, so they could participate in both.
Okay, so this is a very good idea. And there'd be no, as discussed previous, there'd be nobody complaining, well, we can't because.
Well, they could say that, but that's up to their choice.
That's up to them.
But this doesn't change that.
Okay.
I think there's wording in that ordinance that discusses that if there's no objection or conflicts or so
Right,
forth and so on regarding.
Yeah.
But this
Coming to
also
the meeting.
formalizes it so that for 1 year appointment, every single agency has a liaison. So if it was the library board, for instance, they would pick their liaison, that liaison would participate and report back as needed, they could make suggestions, and then the chairman of the co-oversight committee could then make reports to the council.
This is wonderful, I think. And I'd like to thank the Recreation Department for their wonderful parade. It was really great. And everybody have a happy, healthy New Year and happy holidays. And thank you for all being here every week, or every 2 weeks.
Thank you for coming.
Mike?
Yes, Michael.
My name is Mike Diadio, and I'm the chairman of Sayreville Economic Redevelopment Agency. Mr. Grillo, this oversight committee, we've already had advice from our attorney and the planning board attorney that we shouldn't be involved in this at all, and I doubt that Sarah very much could participate in this. I doubt very much that the planning board would be able to participate. I don't know what good somebody from the library or the recycling commission or anyone else would have any valuable input as to our affordable housing. I mean, I don't need to remind this council we are in this mess because of Councilman Garillo and Councilman Lembo sending this awful plan to you guys to sign. Having a committee now at this 11th hour, after we're already in court, we're already appealing, is a waste of time. Plus now, besides that you voted twice against hiring Susan Gruhl, who came up with good reasons and good ideas to help us eliminate housing, you want to hire 2 more people for this committee out of the borough's budget that will have no jurisdictional power,
That's not
and they'll
accurate.
be able to make suggestions.
That's not accurate.
This committee has no jurisdictional power. They can't do anything but make suggestions.
Mike, let me ask you.
So why do you want to hire 2 people when you voted against Susan Gruhl twice, who can make a difference with affordable housing,
Mike.
and hire 2 people that could do nothing?
What, I don't understand what you're talking about. I didn't suggest hiring anyone.
I just heard that we have to hire 2 people for this committee.
What are you talking about?
No, I think you might have misunderstood, Mike. We have to, under law,
Intentionally,
hire
perhaps.
a COA an
Employees.
employee. We have
For
to.
this?
but Not for
No.
this. No. Legislatively speaking, under the statutes of COA that had come into effect over the last several years, every municipality now has to have somebody on their roll that is responsible for this oversight.
Could that be the borough planner?
It cannot, it has to be somebody separate from what I understand of the legislation.
Counselor? Can it be the borough planner?
I don't believe so.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm sure Mr. DuPont can provide you with an answer.
It's my understanding that they have to be somebody separate.
So a separate
From that.
employee has to be hired,
Yes.
and they can serve on this committee whether...
I don't know
they're-
about that because this
haven't gotten to
committee,
that
that's
point yet.
why I turned around and I voiced my concern in reference to this particular committee, because I know that under law, we are going to have to employ somebody. Now, granted, that, it's my understanding also that the funds used to pay for that person that is going to be statutorily required is not coming out of borough funds. It's supposed to be funded through, I forget whatever entity that it was, the funds, whether it come in through the developer's fees or whatever. But there was terms and conditions that were put into that statutory, so that, into that legislation regarding how that individual is paid. But that was something that we cannot avoid. This person has to come in.
So even with no paid employee, what's the purpose of this committee?
Well, thanks for letting me answer, Mike.
That's it.
So you've said you've had, what, a decade and a half of land use experience? You said that before on the record.
We have about 18 years, yeah.
Okay, so if we were to put 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 more people in this borough, right, that's been the complaint all year?
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Yep.
Okay, so the rec board shouldn't have a say when 2,000 more kids are using their fields and programs. The library board shouldn't have an opinion when 2,000 more people are using their facility. I'm fascinated by how myopic you could be, or maybe you're just being obtuse in this situation when you would say that you have 18 years of land use experience, but you would think that those groups wouldn't be affected by population growth.
It has nothing to do with
Are you
population.
being intentionally obtuse about it because you don't like me, or what
You're
is
just
it?
not paying attention.
I'm not paying
This
attention.
No, you're not. This is about affordable housing.
Yes.
Affordable, the number of units. And this is a mess that you caused. Now you want to get someone to give opinions about it after the court case has already been decided, and now it's going into an appeal.
Yeah, I want the residents to give an
Why didn't you bring this
opinion.
up 6 years ago? Or 3 years
Because I
ago?
wasn't on the council 6 years ago. Dan
Well, you
Buchanan
made
was,
this
Mary
mess.
Novak was. If you want to
They
do
didn't
this
sit
tonight,
on the
Mike, let's
planning
do
board.
it.
All right, yeah, you've been on the planning board. You brought this plan to the council. You said it was a great plan.
I was the
More
planning
than once.
liaison. It was voted on unanimously by the planning board.
That you sat on.
No, I
That
sat
you
on it
sat
with 12
and
other
you
people.
voted for.
Mike, what's your other position in this town? Why don't you tell me? Tell everybody what your other position is.
I sit on one board in this town.
Other than that, you wouldn't happen to be Democratic vice chairman, would you?
Yes, I am, no, I'm not the Democratic Vice Chairman.
Did you get demoted? What do you got?
No, I'm the Deputy Chair of the
Oh, the
Democratic
deputy chair,
Party.
congratulations.
And you're
Now,
a Democratic councilman, so what's your point?
I've been thrown out of your party because we disagree on
You're not a
certain things.
Democratic councilman anymore? You're not a Democrat anymore?
I'm not part of that Sayreville, not the part of the Sayreville Democratic Organization, that's for sure.
Sorry, we didn't get your resignation notice. But also,
Take it. Take
see,
it as
besides
tonight.
that, it has
The other
nothing
thing,
to
no,
do
no, no,
with
no, wait,
COA.
Mike. I have the floor, Mike.
Guys,
Mike,
Keep
I'm
it
just
civil.
asking you. Now, you came up here and you belittled me, you belittled Councilman Lembo. I noticed two things. He's a Republican and you don't like me. And I come up here with a common sense plan for cooperative government among the residents and the boards. You have the audacity to come up here and try to shine down on that. Are you out of your mind, Mike? I mean, really. You have Ruth Ann Mahoney coming up here and saying this is a great idea. Ruth Ann Mahoney is a woman that has been here every week for a year, who all she wants is more communication and more openness. She gets that with this ordinance and this committee, and you have the audacity to come up and say you don't think it's a good idea. It's because you don't like me, Mike. Come on, be a bigger
You're
man
correct.
than that.
You're correct. I don't like you, but besides that, I think you're an awful councilman, and I think you came up with an awful plan. That's why I don't like you.
And I think you're a horrendous Sarah, Chairman. So we can agree. Mike, come on. Really, you had to come up here and do this? You know you're being a fool.
The only boards that have any input about COA are planning and Sarah. Sarah is an intervener. Sarah cannot participate in this committee. The planning board attorney recommended that they not participate in this committee. Steve, if you think the library board and the recreation board and the recycling committee can change this COA plan, then more power to you.
It has
But I'd
nothing to
like
do
see
with
what-
changing the COA plan. It has
You like the
working
COA plan with
cooperatively
the
for the next
3,000
7 years.
additional houses. You still like that? That's still a good plan, Steve?
I've been voting with my colleagues up here to appeal this based on
Voted
new
against your
findings.
colleagues to appoint Susan Gruhl to
Not
find
tonight.
additional.
I approved her in the memorialization. Did you pay attention to that? You're like 0 for 6
voted-
with facts tonight, Mike.
You
Give her a
voted
rest.
against Susan Gruhl twice,
Mayor,
didn't you? Did
Mayor,
you vote
really?
against Susan Gruhl twice?
Is this as obvious to you as it is to me? I mean, these poor people are sitting here watching him come up here attack me because he doesn't like me. Give me a break, Mike.
That's it.
thank you, Mike. Yes, Steve.
What a clown.
Steve Melanowski, 28 Scarlet Drive. I think this is out of proportion and very unprofessional. One thing that I said many, many meetings ago was there's no control, oversight, checks and balances. What I'm hearing Councilman Grillo come up with is a way to bring different aspects that are going to be affected by COLA. It's going to be in John's report. That will be an impact. Library. Yes, there may be many more kids in the library. You can go on, but it's transparency, it's communication, it's, as a resident, I want to know what's going on. And I don't care if it's 2,900 homes or 290 homes. What's the impact to our town? How do we get everything in order? And I think it's very short-sighted to say that this is a bad idea. I'm a proponent of communication, transparency, and putting it on the table. Because I'd rather hear bad news day one than bad news 20 years later. So I applaud the plan, and I think it's a good way to move forward so we can get input. I would certainly hope that the planning board and the two planners, hopefully that we get separately, one for the borough, one for the planning board, will be the checks and balances, at least from that perspective, and that from the rest of us in this town, we'll at least know that there's fair representation across all aspects of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Just as my perspective, from what I wanted to hear everything that's said. I think that we have two different perspectives here. We have one on the current existing COA plan, and the downsides of that plan, and this new committee coming together will not have an impact on that because we're in an appeal process for this plan. I see the committee coming forward, possibly, if it comes to fruition, looking at future COA issues. But what we have right now is litigation regarding past COA issues that this borough is going to be faced with for many years. So, you know, when we come up here, just, you know, be civil with each other, that'd be great. But there were two different perspectives that were intermingled on this one, on this topic.
Mayor, I was civil all night until I was sandbagged.
So, other than that, we have closed session now. Ed, if you would.
The Open Public Meetings Act permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and the public body here, the council, is of the opinion that such circumstances exist here now. And for that reason, the public portion of this meeting is adjourned in order that the governing body may meet in closed private session for approximately 10 minutes to discuss personnel matters. Following the conclusion of said closed session, the governing body will reconvene the open portion of this meeting to consider any other matters which may be properly brought before it at this time. The nature and content of the discussion which occurs in closed session shall be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists.
Move the resolution be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll be just a few minutes.
south. If you, like from here, they say, you work in New York, okay, because they keep emphasizing South Neighborhood train station, right? You get on the train, you go. What they're gonna make this town, or this borough, is the Frederick community to be known as the asphalt jungle. My wife is hollering at me for saying all the time, but the whole damn state is gonna be that. Because there's. Yeah, no. That's hard enough that I can right now. But we can do it as a group. We can work it, there's a plan. Take Mississippi, for example. I've got all the background, how they do it. I don't want to.
Make a motion to reconvene? Is there a second? All,
Yeah, no, you can, yeah. Stephen?
all in favor?
Aye.
Is there any other items to discuss?
Make,
If, go ahead.
make a motion, we close the adjourned meeting.
Close, adjourn, it's all the same.
Adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
No, that's good.
Yeah. Good guys. A lot of different times.
Anyway, have a great Christmas, and
Sorry
thank you
about your name
always
again.
for
Sorry, thank you again.
everyone's courtesy when I'm sitting here.